of plants and animals. In this chapter, we will understand the topic quickly. This is a topic of science, but it is covered in environmental studies also, so you may find it very easy. But there are some topics which are already covered in class 7. Here in class 7 topic, you must have studied it in environmental studies also, and this is explaining that there was a person, there were people who went to the forest and they wanted to share their experience. So it is actually explanation of previous class thing, and there are some names which are mentioned here: national park and other biosphere reserves. So there are topics which will be covered in this: the deforestation as well as the biosphere reserves, and the national park topics will be there. So it starts with what is deforestation and its causes. Deforestation is the fast cutting down of trees. A great variety of plant and animal exist on the earth. So we know that there are different plants and animals found on the earth which are important for the well-being and survival of mankind. And when you cut down all these organisms, then it is called, when you cut down all these plants, trees, then these organisms are in danger, and it is caused by deforestation. A major threat to survival is deforestation, and deforestation is, so the meaning of the word you can underline. It is the clearing of forest using that land for other purpose. So normally trees are cut for wood, but now man has started cutting for these reasons which are mentioned here. Man has used trees and the forest are cut for procuring land for cultivation. So we use the land for cultivating crops, for building houses, and for making furniture and other uses. But these are the three main reasons for which the trees are cut. And what are the effects of deforestation? We will cover it, and why should the trees be conserved? We will do that in this topic. So the next portion is this only, that what are the consequences of deforestation. So if you will cut down the forest, what will be the effect? So you have studied in the previous and you know that trees give us food and they give us oxygen. They are the basic uses of the trees. In this you will study what are the basic requirements, other requirements apart from what is mentioned. The consequences of deforestation. Here there are two characters, and they are recalling that deforestation increases the temperature. Why does deforestation increase temperature? Which temperature? The temperature of the earth. Because if there are no trees or less trees, then the amount of carbon dioxide will increase, which will cause the greenhouse effect. That is how the greenhouse effect raises the temperature of the earth. And here it is given: the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere increases, the groundwater level also goes down. This is something which you have studied earlier. Deforestation disturbs the balance in nature. Which balance? The balance of plants, the balance of the animals, and the food on the environment. They were told by Professor Ahmed that if cutting of tree continues, rainfall and fertility of the soil will be affected. So you can underline what are the effects. The level of, you can underline carbon dioxide, then groundwater level, disturbs the balance in nature, rainfall, and soil fertility. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 points which are directly related to the cutting of forests. If you cut down the forest, then the carbon dioxide will increase because there will be less trees to absorb carbon dioxide. And if there are less trees, then the groundwater level will be lower because the tree roots help to hold the soil. And whenever it rains, all the groundwater level is absorbed by the soil because the roots help to keep the soil loose. So if there is no tree, then all the water will not be absorbed and it will flow with the over the soil, and it will go in the with the rivers, and that causes floods. So this is one important effect. It affects the balance in nature. There will be less trees, so less animals and less birds. So less food for birds means they will die. So a balance will be disturbed, and it will reduce rainfall because water absorption will be less. When water absorption will be less in the soil, then it will have no evaporation. Less evaporation means less rainfall, and the soil will become less fertile because all the soil will be washed away by the rains. When it will rain, all the fertility of the soil, all the fertile soil will be washed away by the rain, and there will be chances of natural calamities, which I have told you, flood and drought. So these are the important facts which are related to the effect of cutting of trees. The plants need carbon dioxide. Less trees will mean less carbon dioxide will be used up. So if less carbon dioxide is used up, then there will be more carbon dioxide in the earth, and it will cause a greenhouse effect, and this will cause the global warming. So in this part, global warming is important. So this is explanation of how is global warming caused because of the cutting down of trees. Increase in temperature on the earth will disturb the water cycle, and it will cause droughts. There will be less rain and people will get less water. Deforestation is the cause which leads to change in the soil, and the physical property of the soil is affected. And physical property of soil will be affected means it will be less fertile, because when there will be less trees, then the water will not be absorbed whenever it will rain. So all the water will flow above the soil, and the nutritious soil, which is the fertile soil at the top layer, that will be washed away with the rain, and therefore the soil will lose the important nutrition. Few trees will result in soil erosion. This is the removal of the topsoil, and the top layer of the soil will expose the lower layer of the soil, and this soil has less humus, and it will slowly become less fertile, and it will cause making of deserts. Deforestation, another effect, also leads to a decrease in the water holding capacity of the soil. This is very important. If there are less trees, the water will not be absorbed by the soil. The movement of water from the soil into the ground is reduced. So all the water which will fall over the soil will be left in the soil, and so there will be flood, because all the water of the rain will be flowing with the river, and it will cause more water in the rivers, and of course the groundwater level will also decrease. The other properties of the soil like nutrient content, texture, etc. also change because of deforestation. These are some of the effects which are caused by cutting of trees. So what can be done to prevent the to affect so that the trees are protected? That is called conservation. We talk about conservation of petroleum, conservation of electricity, but we have to conserve forest and animals also. Then here the conservation of forests means it starts with this part. So this is important explanation, meaning of biosphere. The part of the earth in which living organisms exist, and the part where the living things are found. So biological diversity means the variety of organisms found on the earth. So they are the different animals, the different plants, birds, trees, all are called the biosphere. And the two children are going to the professor, and he selects a place, a biosphere reserve. So that is why they have described what is biosphere. It is, he knows that the plant and animals found are similar to Himalayan peaks and to those belonging. The professor believes that biodiversity found is unique. If you go to any hilly area, If you go to any mountain, you will see that there are large amount of and different types of plants and animals found. A forest employee, and here he explains, the person is explaining to the children that apart from our personal efforts and effort of the society, the government is also taking steps to take care of the forest. So what are the steps taken to protect the trees and forest? They are described here. To protect our forest, there are some protected areas. These are called the wildlife sanctuaries. So these are wildlife sanctuary, a national park, biosphere reserve. So three places are there which are allotted by the government to protect the forest and the wildlife. And they are sanctuary. The areas where animals are protected from any disturbance is called a sanctuary. So this definition you will have to remember. The area where animals are protected from any disturbance to them and their habitat is called a sanctuary. What is a national park? The area reserved for wildlife where they can freely use the habitat and natural resources. And then the biosphere reserves, large areas which are protected land for conservation of wildlife, plant and animal resources and traditional life of the tribals. So first thing you have to understand that a wildlife sanctuary, the national park and biosphere reserve, who is the smallest? So this is the smaller area, the area where animals are protected from any, so no one can kill them or no one can disturb the animals. Then the next area is a bigger area, national park area, which is reserved for wildlife and the animals can freely use the habitat and natural things. So this is a smaller area and this is a bigger area. And biosphere reserve is a large area where the wildlife, plants, animal and life of the people. People means the people who are living in the forest. So they are named here as the tribals. So they live together and they are people who are living in this area. They are not allowed to leave the place. So that is a biosphere reserve. We will discuss biosphere reserve in the next part. So these are the protected areas which are normally done by the government to protect the wildlife. And here there are different agencies. The government lays down rules, methods and policies to protect and conserve the animals and the trees. There are wildlife sanctuary, national park and protected areas. So after this there is explanation of what is a biosphere reserve and what is a wildlife sanctuary and what are the different areas which are part of conservation of plants and animals. So till here we have understood what is the meaning of conservation and how is the conservation done. We do the conservation in different ways by making the area where no one can interfere and no one can affect the kill the animals or cut the trees. That is called conservation of forest and wildlife. After this, the next portion comes is the biosphere reserve, where the description of biosphere reserve and meaning of biosphere is described properly. So we will continue with the next class in the next session. The link will be given below this. You can revise this and there is a playlist of the whole chapter. You can revise the whole explanation orally of whatever is written here. So connect with the next class, and if you have any comment and suggestion, type below this video, and see you in the next class.